Oh, I don't know if you guys just heard everything I said. I didn't realize that I didn't pop up on there. Okay. Take two. Okay, because we are live. Uh, so I was watching YouTube this morning. I was up pretty early, well before my normal, wake up period and having my coffee, and I'm, checking, my social media and everything, and going through YouTube, and I'm seeing some of these videos by a particular channel, and they're not the only ones. Uh, that kind of dog on freight brokers, right? And some of the information that they're putting out there to you guys, if you watch their channel, it it's kind of comical, and it's a little bit upsetting because, and I'll tell you why it's a little bit upsetting, because by spreading this disinformation, it doesn't do carriers any good, and it doesn't do freight brokers and freight agents any good, especially new ones coming into the industry. And I don't know what their agenda is as to why they would say this, but it's just simply not true. Okay. Freight brokers aren't going extinct. We're not, becoming obsolete. But to listen to them, they're like, oh, well, manufacturers get 10 to 15 calls a day, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase. They get 10 to 15 calls per week from freight brokers. It's an overwhelming, come on. They probably get 10 to 15 calls per day before noon. All right, number one. Number two, especially if they're a large manufacturer, number two, part of the problem has been that with the double brokering that's happened this year, right? When you start to factor that in, because there's some of these fly-by-night freight brokers that have kind of come into the industry, they're just gone, right? And even some of the big ones. We saw what happened to Convoy, right? So whether you're a big broker, little broker, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that freight volumes are down across the board. That's what's affecting rates, right? Right now we're into December. We're gonna hit our kind of our December, January, February low. We talked in one of the previous videos about how rates are probably coming up sometime in the second quarter. I don't know how significant it'll be, but at least it's some sort of an uptick. But that being said, margins are down, right, as a result. And they're talking 40, 50% that, some brokers are making. Well, show me, okay, because it's just simply not true. Are there some brokers out there making, large margins on loads? Quite possibly, right? And I think, and I don't have any data to back this up, but just sort of over the years, you've kind of picked up on some of this stuff. It's typically some of your new carriers that, they got into it, they got their own authority, yada, yada, yada. And they're having a hard time working with brokers or direct shippers. And so as a result, they end up working at a much lower rate. Who pockets that? The broker, right? They don't know you. Part of it comes down to them wanting that margin, not just simply out of greed, but because if there's anything that happens on the load, right, because they are a new carrier, it's sort of covering your butt sort of a thing, right? If you fell off at the last minute, you know what I mean, and they had to kind of overpay or something, or pay more, they leave themselves. Anyway, I'm not going to get into all that. But brokers aren't going extinct. I'm still getting customers, and I'm a broker, right? I just added one, Friday? So, it's not happening. It's all fear. That's all they're doing. Talking about, oh, brokers aren't paying. Yeah, the double brokers aren't paying. Okay, and I can probably make up some fictitious charts and pie graphs and stuff to all over your screen. It doesn't change anything, right? I can make it fancy and smancy and all flowery for you guys if that's what you want, but I'd rather just tell you the truth. Okay. Simple fact of the matter is that yes, did some shippers go primarily carrier direct? Yes. Why did they do that? Because of the double brokering. Okay, because double brokering's been around for a while, right? But it was so rampant this year. In fact, there are some shippers out there that if you're a broker and you've got XYZ customer, that customer, and some brokers have done this on their own as well, but there are some shippers out there that unless your carrier, right, your carrier partner has X amount of trucks in their fleet, they don't want you using them, right? So if you're an owner operator, odds are you're probably not going to get that load. Doesn't mean that you're a bad carrier, right, or anything like that, but it's just because of the double brokering. What they would do is that they would set up a carrier MC, and it would show, one truck, one driver, no miles. The authority was fairly new, and they would probably take the rate from a broker at any rate, and then they would turn around, double broker it because they had maybe their buddy, their cousin, whoever, and a lot of these places operated from overseas, right? Because it's against the law, you know what I mean? So they're safe over there. So then what happens is they pass that load over to their buddy, whatever, who double brokers the load, never pays the carrier, right? We talked about this so many times this year. It probably make my head spin, go back and think about it. But anyway, that's what's happening, okay? It's not that shippers aren't working with brokers. Brokers aren't going extinct. They're not becoming obsolete. So for some of these other channels to be throwing that out there is just absolutely absurd. It's misinformation, and it's all it does is hurt people, right? And they should be ashamed of themselves, right? That I'm not going to say, oh, all owner operators are obsolete because shippers aren't working with you unless you have 10 or more trucks. That's just simply not the case. You can still find loads, right? You can still find your own direct customers as an owner operator. Okay? So don't buy into all the hype. Especially if you're a new freight broker or an agent and you're just getting started, don't buy into that BS, which is literally what it is. As I watched some of those videos this morning, I wanted to grab a pair of hip waders and put them on because it was getting so deep, right? If you get that reference. If you're a city person, whatever, maybe you won't, but essentially the BS is stacking up. Okay, so yeah, don't buy into it. You can still get customers, right? There's still freight. Is there a lot of it? No. Even some of my better paying customers, their rates have dropped down. The amount of freight that they've had has dropped down, but this is why we keep prospecting, right? This is why I have so many customers. I'm not putting all of my eggs in one basket with 1, 2, or 3 customers. I'm just not, right? And then for them to say that, a lot of these companies are getting 10 to 15 calls a week from brokers. No, they're getting that many calls probably well before noon, right? I mean, especially if you're a large manufacturer or distributor or whatever. I don't know, guys. Give me your thoughts. You got anything to chime in on? Obviously, the live chat is open. But it's just when I see stuff like that, or a certain Canadian that I won't mention, or the load brokers taking 80% of the line haul. Come on, dude. Stop trying to scare people. Brokers aren't taking 80%. Well, they're taking 60 to 70. 50%. And I've seen it on Facebook. You know, oh, I had an agent admit to me that they're getting 60%. Yeah, of the gross profit. So let's break that part of it down too, right? While we're at it, while we're here to shoot down myths and misconceptions and all that, let's get down to that as well. Okay, so let's just say the broker gets a load from a customer paying $1,000. Okay, and he finds a truck, ABC Logistics, whatever, and they say, hey, I've got a truck. He's about 33 miles away. We can pick that up. What are you paying? $900. It's a short run. He's thinking, okay, my guy's got the hours to do this, whatever. Dispatcher says, yep, I'll take it. All right. So that leaves $100 in gross profit. Okay. So of that $100, yes, that agent is getting 60% in this. You know, some brokerages pay 50, some pay 60, 70, some pay 80. I've even seen some try to do 90, but that never works out and they fall flat on their face within 6 months. But because they just can't do it. There's not enough return going on there. But the simple fact of the matter is that if you look at what's going on with these brokerages that are failing, not just carriers. Carriers are failing because of the lack of freight, because rates are down, right? But brokers are going down because their margins are smaller, right? And because of the double brokering. And maybe, you know, you were running a small to medium-sized brokerage or something, let's just say, and, you know, you had some agents who weren't doing their due diligence when they were hiring carriers, and they hired, you know, some of these newer carriers with a 30, 60, or 90-day-old authority that were just double brokers, right? And so then their customers said, you know, hey, you left me in the lurch because I never got a truck, you know, or now I've got, you know, this other carrier that maybe broker A didn't even know about coming after me to pay the bill. You know, why aren't you paying your carrier? Well, we did, but you paid it to the double broker, and now, you know, you're on the hook to pay the actual legitimate carrier. So all it is shippers protecting themselves, right? It's still a shipper's market. Brokers aren't out there, you know, tearing carriers a new one or anything like that. They're not going anywhere. They will always need it because and those shippers that are going carrier direct, they have the ability, they have the manpower and the technology to vet their own carriers if they want to, right? Those shippers that don't have the manpower, I have some customers, they have no logistics department. I am their logistics department. Okay. There is no transportation manager or anything. I deal strictly with salespeople, right? Or the secretary. Hey, Bob said, you know, to get a hold of you and say, hey, he's got this load, whatever, but he's on the other line, but he wanted to make sure you got it right away. Okay, great. They send it over to me and ask me what the rate would be, at which point in time, you know, I start going through the process of vetting my carriers. If I've got regular carriers in the area that I work with, then obviously I offer it to them first. If I don't have anybody in the area, it goes on spot load, right? So that's what it is, okay? So when you see some of these flashy, and I'm not down on anybody for having a flashy channel, you know what I mean? If they're more techie than I am, whatever, that's fine. I'm never going to down anybody. But be careful of what you listen to, I guess, is the moral of all of this, because some of what they're doing, you know, it's no different than watching the news. You know, it's just a lot of BS. It really, truly is. Whatever you listen to, it's all garbage, in my opinion. You know, it's just a lot of, you know, that'd be like saying something like, President Biden likes cats. Well, then, you know, some other news channel might say, oh, President Biden hates dogs. It's just, you get the same thing on YouTube with a lot of this misinformation. So brokers aren't going anywhere, carriers aren't going anywhere, owner operators aren't going anywhere. It's just the market, right? And this is sort of an unprecedented market that we're in compared to years previous. Like I said, we always have our up and down about every 3 to 3.5 years. We're slowly going to start coming out of it in the spring, about second quarter. But until then, we all just need to kind of pucker up and hold tight and do the best we can to get through it, right? So that's sort of my rant for the day. All right. So just be careful, guys. You know, what you listen to. Like I said, brokers aren't going anywhere. Do you guys got any comments? Anything you want to share with me real quick before I jump off? I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. If you need to email me, you need any information, you're struggling with something, maybe getting customers or how to vet carriers or anything like that, email me, freightmasterresources@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out our sponsors. They're a bunch of phenomenal people. We got discount codes for some of that, right? As a result, but I guess with that, I wish you guys all a great rest of your Monday, a great rest of your week. I will try to be on again later this week because I had another video that I wanted to do, but this one sort of took cuts, I guess, and became a little bit more of something that I wanted to put out there. Sorry, I'm losing my ability to speak all of a sudden. So, all right, guys, as always, be kind to one another. See you next time. Bye-bye now.